In this lesson, we're going to start off with available light, and then we're going to go to on-camera flash, and then bouncing that on-camera flash, then using light modifiers, all with the on-camera flash, just so how we can see the shot evolve. It's kind of an evolution of light. So we have the camera here, we have Brittany. Remember, use your subject's name, communicate with them, strike that rapport, you'll get much better images. So the cameras today, as I've said before, can capture images in pretty much any type of light and any type of lighting condition. So again, I'm going to just take my camera off the tripod, and we're going to get an available light shot. So my approach is always the same. I set my ISO first, and then I would eventually end up in either aperture priority or manual mode. That's just me. You may choose to use program, you may choose to use shutter value. Whatever your approach is, it can work. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to be in aperture priority, and I want to use an aperture of f4. Just again, I like the nose and the eyes to be in focus. I'm using a 24 to 70 millimeter zoom lens on an EOS 1D Mark IV. So I know in this scenario we have a very bright white wall, and if we're using the reflective meter in the camera, it could throw things off. So I know I'm going to have to use exposure compensation. That's a way of manually overriding or kind of taking control of any one of the automatic modes. And it works in all the modes: program mode, time value mode, aperture priority mode. Exposure compensation does not work in manual mode. Reason being is because you are in complete control then by adjusting your exposure through the use of shutter speed and aperture. So instinctually, I know the camera meter is going to want to record that white wall. It's very bright, as 18% gray. So I'm going to bump up exposure compensation 2/3 of a stop. That's just my starting point. It's all relative. Remember, none of these settings are written in stone. Each scene, each environment that we go into, this being a studio, it could be your living room, it could be outside, it could be at the school play. Each scene and scenario is going to present a different set of challenges. As photographers, we're kind of problem solvers. We walk in, we assess the room. You know, this studio has a high ceiling, not very good for bouncing off of because it's timbers. So it's wood, it is very warm tone and tonality, and you'll see as we bounce light off of it, it's going to pick up some of that warmth. It's also kind of high to bounce off of. So there really isn't that nice white ceiling like you may have in your home. Their bounce will work all day long. We're also going to go through bouncing the light off of a nearby wall. That works great too. But for now, let's just get a capture at available light. Hi, Brittany. So I'm choosing 800 ISO just because I want to be able to hold my camera steady, and I meter it right off of Brittany. Wow, at 800 ISO, there's not much light in here. At an aperture of f4, my camera meter is telling me a shutter speed of a 1/13 of a second. I know I can't hold this camera steady at all at 70 millimeters at a 1/13 of a second. So I need to adjust my ISO. Adjusting the ISO makes the camera more sensitive to light. Otherwise, we would have to bring in external lighting supplements, such as a flash, a reflector, a hot light, something to give us more light. So if 800 is pretty slow, I'm going to go right up to 2000 ISO and see where I'm at with my f4 aperture. So that's giving me still a shutter speed, metering right off of this area of Brittany's face, right in the middle, wow, of a 1/30th of a second. So it's relatively dark in here. So I'm going to go up in my ISO to 3200. These cameras can go extremely high in ISO, and as I said before, get a capture in pretty much near darkness. So at 3200, I'm at a 60th at f4, and I could get a really nice, clean looking image, right? That's pretty high of an ISO. Now the cameras today are amazing. They have beautiful files even at the high ISO. But my personal taste, I like to keep my ISO lower. So therefore, we're going to put on an on-camera flash and see what the image looks like. So the available light looks very nice, 60th at f4. I'm in aperture priority mode, and I know because of my white wall, I had to give a plus 2/3 of a stop exposure compensation. That'd be the same approach as if I went through live view or I used my handheld light meter. It would get me to this point. So let's add that flash and see what it looks like.